I would like to welcome the viewers of my channel, The Dream House, and today I would like to share with you guys our story on how we ended up here in the Dominican Republic, why we decided to live here for the last 2 years in this paradise island, what are the nuances with moving here and with what we had to face, what were the difficulties, and what are the pros and cons. Nothing but the naked truth. But before we get into this video, I would like for you guys to subscribe to my Telegram channel. That's also called The Dream House. There I post more up-to-date information about the current prices for real estate, on purchasing, on leasing, my personal insights and helpful advices. And also I plan on conducting giveaways in that channel for my active YouTube subscribers, and I plan on giving away cash prizes and other presents. So subscribe to my Telegram channel in the description below, and let's get started with our story. So in 2019 we welcomed into our family our newborn child, a son, and in the end of the year we decided to move to Israel and obtain citizenship there. We have a right to Israeli citizenship because my parents have been living there for the last 20 years. As of now, they have moved back to the Russian Federation, but back then they lived in Israel, and we moved there to get started with the paperwork and to obtain citizenship and to feel for ourselves the day-to-day life in Israel. So in total, we lived there for about 2 months. Those were the winter months. We arrived there in November. We managed to collect all the needed documents and forms and got to know all the formalities needed to obtain citizenship there, and there are a lot of those formalities. Those of you that have Israeli citizenship know what I'm talking about. So what happened after that? Well, we began to live as locals and not as tourists, and that's a very big difference. To live as a tourist that arrives and lives in a country for a short period of time, and to live as a local. So when we began to gathering all these documents and learning about all the steps needed to be taken, we came to face with a lot of harsh realities, especially from the bureaucratic side, about a lot of restrictions, even if you have a right to Israeli citizenship. And another issue was that having Israeli citizenship came with a lot of baggage concerning restrictions with travel to other countries. And we as people who love to travel and our children would be faced with a lot of difficulties for many years, if not for the rest of our lives, because we would be banned from visiting other countries such as the United Arab Emirates, other Muslim countries such as Indonesia and Malaysia, and other countries. The list goes on and on. Another issue was that our children would be bound by law to serve in the Israeli Defense Forces, both our son and daughter, and there were other restrictions that we really did not like. And after a family sit-down, we decided to quit trying to obtain Israeli citizenship, but continue to live with the freedom that we have to this day. And in the end, I believe that this was the correct decision, because now we can travel all over the world without any restrictions whatsoever. So, what happened after that? Well, we lived in Israel for a total of 2 months, and life was pretty nice there. We lived on the Mediterranean sea coast, but since we decided against obtaining Israeli citizenship, we had to move because life in Israel is pretty expensive. Rent, produce, transportation, it's all very expensive in Israel. To live in Israel comfortably, you need a good and stable source of income, with a minimum of $2,000 to $3,000 a month, upwards of $5,000 a month, to afford yourself a comfortable lifestyle. But Israel still remains a great country to visit, to travel to stay for short periods of time, from 1 to 2 weeks, because there are a lot of beautiful places that you all have to see. and experience for yourselves. So, what did we do after that? Well, we had some friends who, before our move to Israel, moved to the Dominican Republic, and after our stay in Israel, invited us to come over for a month and live with them to rest and recuperate. So, we bought plane tickets, and within a week we were there. Now, it's a whole separate story about how we got there, getting through Europe, and that the crib on the airplane was too small for our boy, who's a big baby. But in the end, we arrived safely and soundly in the Dominican Republic with the end goal of staying here for about a month. We ended up renting a condo in a residency that we are currently living in for almost 2 years now. In the beginning, we rented out our condo for a much higher price, and in a separate video, by the way, I will tell you guys how to negotiate pricing for your lease so that in the end you'll pay less money, considering the fact that you are going to be leasing out your condominium or property for a long period of time, because there's a big difference price-wise, 2 to 3 times, and you can economize a lot of money. So we moved here, and the first thing that really struck us was the way the locals treated us, the constant atmosphere of happiness. Everybody was always smiling, everybody was very welcoming, and we know because we have a lot of countries to compare with. We've been to over 40 countries, and we were bought off with this atmosphere of happiness and welcomeness. And I could sum up life in the Dominican Republic with one sentence: you can be happy without money. And this is made evident by the fact that there are a lot of poor people in the Dominican Republic. There is a big difference, a big gap between the rich and the poor here, with the rich living in the capital city of Santo Domingo and the poor living in favelas. Without electricity, I mean, only 30 years ago, all of these places here in the Dominican Republic were electrified. So there are quite a few poor people here, and let me find the right road and go in the right direction here. So, as I said, this is a country of contrasts that are quite evident, but it is a welcoming country, and we really appreciated that. And in the end, we thought that it was great living here, and we decided to have a discussion with me and my wife. Could we really live here? And she said that she really liked living here. So after living here for about a month and a half, we decided to return to the Ukraine because we have friends and relatives living there. We bought some tickets. This was 2020, right before COVID hit. So we bought our tickets back to the Ukraine on a cruise liner. We were planning on taking a cruise across the Atlantic on a 20-day trip to Barcelona in Spain, and from Barcelona fly to Ukraine, to Kiev. The tickets were bought for March, both for the airplane and for the cruise, and COVID hit, and with all of its restrictions and lockdown, everything was canceled, both the cruise and the flight. And by the way, might I add, the money has not been refunded to us to this day. So in the end, we ended up spending quarantine here in the Dominican Republic. And of course, we were saddened in the beginning because of the whole situation, but after some time, we came to the conclusion that it was all for the best, and that the Dominican Republic was one of the best places on earth to spend the quarantine during the lockdown. And we ended up just staying here, and that was 2 years ago, and we've been living here ever since. Each passing day, we were reaffirmed in our conclusion that this was the place for us, that this is a great country. We began learning about this country, its culture, its history, everything about it from within. We began traveling all over the country, meeting new people, making new friends, We began to adapt. Our kids started attending school here. Our daughter is going to school. Our son is in kindergarten, but he quit kindergarten and soon he's going to start going to school. There are a lot of pros and cons living here, and I think I'll touch up on them in a separate video concerning questions about the cost of living here. But I would like to say that any person with any level of income can live here. Like in any other country, however, I must say one of the biggest upsides is the wonderful climate. It is warm year-round. I mean, out of the clothing I wear for the last 2 years is t-shirts, shorts, and flip-flops. Now, of course, I have several changes, but you get the gist. And of course, that's a big pro because you save a lot of money on clothing and on shopping. You don't need warm fur coats. You just don't need it. And by the way, I've worn jeans like 2 times during this 2 years, and those were for special occasions, for special gatherings, where there was a certain dress code, and that's it. So there are a lot of interesting nuances, and I'll touch up on them in other videos concerning the cost of living here, how much money you need to earn to afford yourself a comfortable lifestyle, how much does produce cost here, etc. So keep an eye out for future videos. If you found this video helpful or interesting, consider hitting the thumbs up button, subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell so that you'll be up to date on all the new releases. I'll try to release more new content on a regular basis, so don't miss out. Remain with the channel Dream House. Have a wonderful day. This was Yuri from the Dominican Republic.